And I think it's wonderful that you guys actually mentioned that you've been in this industry for decades. And I'm tempted to call it two separate industries because the industry that we're in today and the industry that I presume you guys started in are two very different industries.
Completely
And I would
different.
presume that the two of you who have sort of existed in both periods, if I may call them, know and can see the real difference of the two industries. And I think it's important that you guys touch on the importance of the recognition of the CFP designation because there are a lot of so-called financial planners and financial advisors going around today, most of whom are selling products. And I think it's important that we get distinction between what an actual financial planner is, a certified financial planner, and what salespeople are. Because I think when we're talking about consumer education, it's important that people know what the difference is so that they know, what exactly to expect from, whoever they're dealing with. I'm not saying that it's wrong to deal with a salesperson. If some people want to deal with a salesperson, it's important that they deal with one. But it's important that people know what the difference is and that they don't conflate what a certified financial planner is with what a salesperson is. Which brings me to the conversation that I wish to have with you guys today. So I mentioned briefly before we started recording that I sat in a forum discussion that was moderated by David not so long ago. It was in collaboration with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. So Lyndall Clark actually formed a part of that discussion as well. I have an interesting conversation coming up with him as well. But yeah, I sat through that conversation, or I entered it begrudgingly because I was busy with my schoolwork. And Caroline De Silva sent me a message and she was like, you have to attend this. And Caroline has since become like a mentor to me over the past, I would say, 2 years. So she sent me a message and she ordered that I go and sit through that forum discussion, which I did begrudgingly, but I did. And when I sat there, I just could not take my eyes off the screen because what I saw on that screen pointed to the center of a real conundrum. The numbers that we saw there, I think, really put into perspective what it is that we're actually dealing with and the size of the Goliath that we're going to have to take down. And as I mentioned, David chaired that discussion. Lelané, I'm not sure if you were able to attend that. I believe that you were attending as well. I'm not sure if I saw your name on there.
Yeah, I did it making sure that David behaves, you know.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking. I did attend
Yeah.
because it's also very close to my heart.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's wonderful. So the reason I wanted to have this conversation is because I have, as you guys can probably tell, a very young audience that tunes into the content that I put out. And so I thought I'd be remiss if I did not take that information that was shared there and come and share it with the younger people who I think are yearning for such information. And I think hearing such statistics will really put into perspective just the kind of problem that we have on our hands. So, David, you moderated that discussion. I'm not sure if you were able to see the document beforehand, or were you also as shocked as I was seeing it for the first time when you moderated that discussion? What was it like moderating it, and what was it like actually unpacking the contents of that report that was drawn up by the FPI?
So I think when you start talking about the passion for it, that's the numbers that actually drive the passion for what we do. Because I've got a firm belief that if people have a better level of financial education and can make a better educated choices in terms of what they're doing, we as a nation, as a South African nation, are naturally going to grow forward. So I did have sight of the documents beforehand, so it wasn't sight unseen. And it is a survey that's actually been conducted since 2010. And it just shows as well how the environment actually impacts on what happens in a consumer matter. So things like the lockdown, the COVID environment, how badly that affected consumers. But again, a lot of the things that we see, if somebody has got a financial plan that they've put into place and are working with. So we're not just talking about, I've entered into a transaction and bought some policies or something, but I've actually got a plan. It's a plan that I'm working with, that you're able to weather storms a lot better, and you're able to confidently make those financial decisions that are good for you. And that's really what drives this whole passion for financial planning is the right thing to do. Every consumer should have a financial plan that they're working, and have a financial planner who's there to actually guide them and keep them on track, because scary things happen, right? And we're all humans, and this is where the whole behavioral finance comes into it. If you're seeing your investments going down, if you're in this position where your budget is stretched and tight, you're going to make decisions that are irrational. Okay, and we know this from behavioral studies, and that's really where a financial planner comes in and says, hang on a minute, let's take a look at the bigger picture. Let's understand the plan where we're at, and how is this decision that you're making now going to impact on that plan. So it's always good to sit back and re-look at your decision in terms of your plan that you've got, instead of based on the noise that is going on. Because as I say, this too shall pass.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Lelané, what was your sense of that report? Were you as bewildered as I was? Or did you
Yes.
expect to see those numbers? I would presume that you would have expected to see something of that nature because you obviously work in the industry. But I can't imagine how anyone could have foresaw just how dreadful some of those numbers were.
Yeah, the numbers are indeed dreadful, and I think the numbers was not, but it doesn't mean like the numbers are not a surprise. It's still not shocking. It is shocking, and what it highlights for especially the Financial Planning Institute is that we all as a collective, if we look at the principles of partnership, professional bodies like the FPI, we are taking hands with National Treasury in developing curriculums that's relevant from a financial literacy point of view. We are taking hands with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. Just the 15th of August, you would have seen that they published that they're kicking off the national speech competition again. And we normally play quite a big role in that we judge quite a few of these young individuals coming up from high, on financial planning principles, but also starting with the very basics of budgeting. So let me just quickly then talk about how do we get out of this conundrum? Well, it starts with thyself. You have to critically look at the man or the woman in the mirror and say, what am I going to do to help and contribute? Start with the basics of your own budget. Never spend more than what you earn. I'm going to repeat that. Never spend more than what you earn. It's okay not to eat pizza every night. It's okay to rather focus on eating healthy. It's okay to rather save. And there's a difference between saving and investing. So from your very first paycheck, especially for your young audience that you have, from your first paycheck, please start saving. Please start building up an emergency fund so that when we are hit by a global pandemic, I still cannot believe we've been in a global pandemic.
Crazy.
I remember March when we had our first family meeting and my mom was visiting and she was then obviously stuck with us for longer because we went into lockdown, FBI shut its doors, all worked remotely. It still feels like, when I speak to somebody, that you also lived through that because it feels like a nightmare. But you need to be ready at all point in time that when something like that hits, because a lot of people were retrenched or their income were reduced, and a lot of people were impacted negatively. I mean, if we look at lockdown level 5, do you remember that? When only the essential services were allowed to be on the road, and a lot of the businesses could not trade. They could not, especially the smaller businesses, they couldn't do any business. Then the whole debacle that came out with regards to business contingency and the claims that was repudiated, businesses in South Africa really battled to survive. And attached to those businesses are employees. So please, I'm going to repeat, start with ourselves, start with a very basic budget. Don't spend more than what you earn. Make sure that you put money aside for savings and especially an emergency fund so that you can survive during times when we go into global lockdowns. Hopefully, we will not see that for the next few decades. Hopefully, we won't see that again, but you need to be prepared for any eventuality.